Hey everyone, welcome back to another Productivity Like a Pro podcast episode with my dear friend Paco Cantero, our co-founder, and our dear members inside the chat. Today again with 4 questions that we want to dive into right away.
Paperless Movement, your productivity, your way.
The first question would be, why do people struggle so much with sticking to their to-do list? Do you know this, Paco? Do you have any idea why
Yes, of
this
course.
is?
Of
Well,
course.
I have no
because
doubt.
They are endless, endless list of items.
I would start with the quote that we keep repeating is a to-do list is infinite and a calendar day is finite. And that's why people struggle. And now let's break this down into that there are even different tasks in order to conquer this.
Yes, because I think that one of the crucial points is that people mix everything up and they start mixing random tasks, random speedies that for us here in the ICOR methodology, those are tasks under 15 minutes length. They don't know what to do with meetings and events that they have in their calendar, and at the end, it's not clear for the person or the people or the VC professional what a to do is. It's something you need to do, but what it is exactly, and that's why we double down on concepts using ICOR, because we gave a precise definition to every term that we face in the world of productivity. And the moment that you start defining the things is how you can better understand them, and consequently you can better organize yourself. In the case of task management, I think that we have everything pretty well defined so that you can perfectly start organizing all your stuff. That, by the way, it's a lot of different items, talking about to-do list for VC professionals.
Yeah, and they're talking about the different definitions. It starts already by defining what is your deep work and your shallow work. Just by realizing that most of the work that you do on a daily basis is just shallow work and not in many cases, not even moving you towards your goals, but just keeping you busy the whole day. And you could do this the whole day, every day. This is what gives you the feeling of busyness, and in the end of the day, the feeling of to being unaccomplished or not getting anything done that is important in that day, right? And that's where we focus on the deep work to identify, as we call it in ICOR, the highlight of the day, to identify one task that you know that moves you towards your goals, a task that is aligned to a project that is defined to a goal, or that's assigned to a goal. And by just completing this one highlight of the day, you already know that you've done something on that day that moved you towards your goals. And now people say, well, but it's just one task and I have hundreds of tasks. Well, if you identify all these deep work tasks, and they usually take 2, 3, 4 hours of focused work, and you do this every day, 5 days a week, you will see that you will accomplish a lot more than you ever have done in months before. And I talk from experience there as well, grinding in corporate and doing work for others, usually accomplishing goals from other people, from other teams. This is also something that you get unexpected events in, and people giving you some tasks. Hey, can you help me with this? Help me with this. And you keep postponing, procrastinating on your own tasks. And by defining your deep work and your highlight of the day, you can secure your time around this as well. So you have an excuse that you need to work on this. So you actually get the work done that was agreed with the business. Also, if you're a solopreneur, you agreed on that this moves the business forward and brings in the money. Well, you perfectly can work on this. There's nobody who can tell you, no, you have to do something else, like reading emails or something like that.
Yes, and I think that what people need to do is trying to bring clarity to their life and work, but specifically to the quarter, the week, and the day. Okay, the moment that you start little by little zooming in and out, it brings clarity, and it's important to tackle or pay attention to 2 techniques that we consider crucial here in the ICO methodology. That one is batching, is trying to create groups of tasks that are similar. For instance, email management, for instance, as we mentioned previously, speedies, for instance, administration task, the moment that you start batching similar tasks, it's much easier to tackle them, okay? Because you then can create routines that you are constantly running, taking care of those batches of tasks that you have created. And also sequentiality, okay? I think that the moment that you force yourself to be sequential is the moment that you start making the sacrifices you need, okay? Because when you are looking at a to-do list, you can quickly highlight the main items, but the point is that you have to decide when to execute each of them, and then force yourself to create a sequence of items, a sequence of tasks. That way, you again gain clarity because you are making a decision, you are creating the order of execution, and that's why we bet on planners, okay? Tools that allows you to force these things, okay? Batching, because you can perfectly create routines to perform, execute, and complete tasks that are related, and also sequentiality, okay? Because the own tool is gonna force you to put one item on top of the other. And by creating that sequentiality is how you can see if that makes sense for you, okay, based on your priorities, your goals, the type of work that you have previously defined between shallow work and deep work. And that's how you start creating a structure out of the chaos, because I think that it's the chaotic situation, having many things that you have simultaneously on your brain or your tools, it what creates that sensation of feeling overwhelmed, of struggling, and all the negative emotions by not having control over the situation. Because if on top of that you put unexpected event, things that pop up and emerge randomly at any moment, then you get confused because maybe you just execute that unexpected item, but afterwards, what do? You know, you need to quickly go back to your plan and start executing that previous plan that you have perfectly defined, because if not, you waste a lot of time and energy by trying to constantly organize yourself, and also you don't know how to handle those interruptions. You don't know how to teach or tell your team how those things should be handled to avoid interruptions. And at the end is the sum of all these different variables and situations that busy professionals face daily that creates that question, no? Why they struggle with their to-do list. And it's because all the attention is spam and they are not fully focused on what needs attention and how to execute those tasks one by one.
Amen. Just quick interruption there. Volker asked, almost ashamed to ask, where can I find the podcast? Just go into the weekly live Q&A section inside the membership. There's a page where you can hand in your question. Below is the video podcast on YouTube, the channel, the playlist. And below that is the audio podcast. So just search for Productivity Like a Pro on any Apple or Spotify and you will find the podcast there. There's only one. And it's the right one for you if you want to become more productive.
The one and only.
The one and only. All right, let's move on to the next question then. Why do time management tools fail to work for some people?
First off, because most of the tools are not designed to manage time. And I think that that's the first thing. Okay, people go to a project management tool or to a task manager tool or whatever, and they start trying to manage the time using a tool that is not designed with that purpose in mind. And that's why you start failing and also feeling a problem with time, okay? Because as we said in the previous question, you are facing a to-do list, and then how do you handle that? That's why planners, okay, tools that are specifically designed with time management on mind is how you can really start trying to deal with time management, because that's why we created one mental model, again, that helps people to manage time. And it's called PIA, okay, Plan, Execute, Align, that replies to the three main questions related to time management. The first one, plan, it's when am I going to do this? You have to be proactive, okay? You need to plan yourself to decide when you're gonna start executing or execute completely a task. Then the second step is execute. What do I do now? That's what we said in the previous question. No matter if you are interrupted, if you are living in a chaotic situation, if you are living a nightmare, you always need to know to reply immediately to this question. What do I do now? The moment that you start to execute something, you need to also ensure the third question, that is am I going where I should be doing? Because is it aligned with my goal? Is this the right task based on the energy level of the time that I'm executing it? Those three questions that helps you plan, execute, and align are the ones that the moment that you can quickly reply to them is the moment that you are taking control of your time, and you can say that you are managing your time. Thankfully, we have tools specifically designed to deal with those type of questions, and that's why we double down on planners, because it helps you to manage your time. At the end is what busy professionals are dealing with, their time and how they spend it in the right way or the best way possible.
Yeah, and we see David commenting in the chat. If you have ADHD, they are a disaster. So time management tools he is referring to. And then he writes, "Go Ekiflow," and that's obviously the planner that he is using. Paco, you mentioned planner, and the question was targeted to time management tools. So obviously the task management and project management tools like ClickUp, Todoist, and so on, they lack this time management feature. However, now we see all these features occurring and coming up in these tools, especially Todoist as well, where you can synchronize this with your calendar. But that's what we don't believe in. So because you have an infinite task list in this task manager already, and now it's synchronizing with your calendar, and that encourages you now to plan out each task individually on the calendar, even if it is speedies less than 15 minutes. And this could lead to the moment where you keep updating your calendar, because every day never runs the way that you plan it out. Unexpected events, things take longer than expected, interruptions, whatever. And therefore you would need to go back to your calendar and to reorder the stuff in order to schedule it out again. If you now argue, well, I just wanted to see what I want to work on that day, then there's no point to having it on the calendar at all. Just having it in a task list. Or, and this is where the planner comes in, have it in your planner, like we are using Sansama for this purpose, where the task management and the project management tools tasks are synchronized into the planner, and then the calendar is also visible in the planner. So now I can really lay out the task along the week and what to prioritize on in a sequential order, as you mentioned, Paco, on the energy level, what I want to work on first. However, sequentially, we are not placing this on our calendar. In the end, it's just a list of tasks we want to work on that day, but it is a short list of things, and that can be accomplished. It has a start and an end that is possible to achieve on that day. And this gives this a sensation of achievement. Routines are also on this planner. And therefore, the issue is, getting back to the question, why do time management tools fail to work for some people, is, first of all, people don't understand the difference between a calendar app, a task manager, and a planner. That's something to be aware of. And the other thing is that all these tools provide too many features, but that they are not good at. So Sansama, I could add tasks there and use it as a task manager. But is it as good as using a Todoist for task management? In our opinion, no. And that's something where, when we have on our inner circle cohorts, we're not advocating to have a complex system with a lot of tools and, spending all the money on subscriptions, especially if you don't understand why you're using all these different tools. Instead of this, try to force it into one tool and do everything in one tool. Let's say you're using Sansama or Ekiflow to use it for everything: task management, calendar, planning, and all these things. And then see the ceiling that you hit the moment you properly use this tool, and it will naturally come to you that you need something else in order to manage your infinite lists of tasks, because it's hard to manage this in the planner, for example. And that's where you then purposefully look out for another tool that has this specific feature.
And the point is that I think that right now we are, especially busy professionals and knowledge workers, are facing one of the most complicated periods of time, because the main players in the world of productivity, talking about software companies, they are expanding their features and there are a lot of overlappings. For instance, we are seeing like Slack, that it was just a communication tool. It's starting to manage tasks with the ambition of becoming a project management tool. We have seen, like recently, ClickUp has released a chat so that now it's a communication tool, okay? And it's happening everything. Todoist, for instance, right now, they want to become also a time blocking tool And this is insane. No? This is the moment that VC professionals need to have behind a methodology, okay? Because if not, if you go on your own looking for a tool in the market right now, you will be completely destroyed, I would say, because it's really difficult if you don't understand the concept, and especially because there are huge tools like Notion that you can use it for everything, because you can there set up everything at all. You can set up a project management tool, a PKM tool, a database system, well, whatever. And that's what really complicates the things, because people are not able to dedicate the time, because we have to think that busy professionals are not specialized, and they don't want to be specialized in productivity. You know, they got their stuff. If they are a marketing manager, they are thinking about marketing campaigns and things like that. They just need to handle their information and their action. And if you don't have a methodology, the concepts and the workflows behind that are based in an agnostic tool approach, I mean that they don't depend on the tool you are using, is the moment that you really start using each tool for the main purpose based on your needs, okay? It's not the needs of that software company. It's not about the features that all those tools bring to the table, because we are seeing there are people who try to manage everything just with Tana, for instance, that it's, well, a tool that for me, if you try to use Tana for complex project management things, I think that people will have many problems. Honestly, I have to say that. And exactly the same, trying to create a mix of task management plus communication system plus project management plus time blocking using Todoist, for instance, well, that would be a nightmare. The moment, especially, that you add volume to the equation, okay? Because that's the problem, okay? When you have a simple life or work, you don't need a productivity system at all, and then you can perfectly defend that you can use Todoist for everything. Even you can add the groceries there with your wife, and no problem, okay? Everything works perfectly. The problem is when you are betting on system that you have built that you cannot scale, because that's the problem, okay? We find people that, for instance, have systems that work perfectly individually, but the moment that they need to bring the team into this story, everything falls through the cracks. And it's because it's not pretty well thought, it's not deeply analyzed and designed, and that's what we help people, okay? To understand concepts and workflows and create a productivity system that they can scale up whenever needed, okay? And also taking each tool for the main purpose based on their needs, okay? Because for instance, I can perfectly understand that for a certain use case, you can use, I don't know, Tana for project management and it works for you, okay? But some other people can just use it as an outliner. Some other can use it as a database system. It depends on the needs and how you approach the tool, because right now, as they are so wide, they have so many features, okay? You can take advantage of any of them. And if you feel comfortable, for instance, I don't know, storing SPDs on Tana, for instance, well, it works for you. You know that the moment that you need to handle SPDs, you go to Tana, you got the search there, and you can quickly check them off if necessary, okay? So, and that's the beauty. The moment that you understand the concepts and the workflow is the moment that you can go to the market of software being confident that you will really know what you need, what type of tools you need to use, and the features of each tool that you're going to use. And we have created so many tools inside the ICOR methodology, but specifically the ICOR framework is one of our main tools to really understand your tool stack and create one that you can trust on for the long term. That I think that that's important. Always thinking about the long term. No matter what happens, if you are dealing with 2 projects, think about a system that will allow you to manage hundreds of projects without changing your workflow and how your brain works. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's an important point that you brought up there, Paco, about the tool agnostic concepts and workflows that you need. And that's why we keep saying it doesn't matter in what tool you throw us in. We will make this up and running in no time. So, for example, Notion, as we are using ClickUp right now, you mentioned now that we have chat. Yeah, we moved from Slack to chat for the beta testing. Now we stopped using Slack and use now chat inside ClickUp. But all these things, all these moves are informed decisions, that we do, because we know exactly what part of the productivity system we are changing here. And people just have a feeling usually something is not running properly. They see something on YouTube, they see a tool like Notion, oh my God, you can do everything. They kill their whole system and all the tools they use, move on, install a template they found somewhere, and then they struggle even more. And the system they had before, even if it wasn't running effectively, but it was running. And now you stopped completely working and you invested time. So the frustration just keeps going. And the only reason behind this is exactly what you just described, Paco. The lack of understanding and the lack of knowledge of your tool agnostic productivity system that you run on a daily basis. The focus on tool is really dangerous. And the tool companies trying to explain to you why you should use the tool and how to use the tool, and have marketing templates, project management templates, and for each department a template, which is, I never found anything that really would be that flexible to recommend to somebody. It's insane, but it is just selling the product, and this awareness is really key here. Absolutely. Hey, enjoying the content so far? So how do you feel after seeing all this? Do you think your productivity system is at this level? Take our free 3-minute quiz to find out. Whether you struggle with note-taking, PKM, task or project management, or even workflow automation, we've got you covered. Depending on your results, you'll get a tailor-made free email course starting right after you finish the quiz that will instantly level up your productivity system with laser-focused, actionable advice. Click the link in the description below and unlock your full potential. And we are personally here to help you succeed. So let's ICOR together. Next question. Why do some agile projects end up feeling as slow and bureaucratic as waterfall ones? Well, that's because people, we talked in the previous question about that people don't understand the concepts and workflows behind tools. And here it's the same thing. People hear agile projects, let's do agile projects, but they've been working on waterfall projects for decades. At least that was my experience in big corporate. Everybody was running waterfall projects, big ones, over years. They never met a deadline. That was just the case because it's impossible to estimate a proper deadline when a project is finished, for example, especially these complex projects that we had working cross-department-wise globally and things like that. You get a gut feeling there, but you will never hit a specific due date. And Agile, this is where people say then, well, we will just move forward. And that's a good approach if on paper, where you say we will just keep moving from one goal to another, and then we readjust what we want to build there. And in the company I was working in, or at least in the industry I was working in, we've been building packaging lines for medicines. So this is a pretty straightforward project, if you like, that you can write down, and it has a start and end. You have to build this filling line. It needs to have these components. You have to buy these machines, you have these engineering teams to build all this. And now we changed to Agile in this company as well. And we had a Scrum Master, we had no teams anymore, it was squads and all this. And it was all coming from Spotify. And the thing is, Spotify is a software company. And if you have Agile project, it makes the sense that you reevaluate after each sprint that you do there. Are you still working towards this? Did new ideas came up? Maybe we readjust the goals and build something out, or focus on other features in the software and things like that. And trying to apply this to a project like I described, where you have a strict start and goal that you have to accomplish, well, then you do your sprints, but in the end of the day, you have to complete the project in 3 years at some point, and you have this budget. It doesn't change the framework that you have around the project, if I explain this properly.
I think that people fell into the trap of using this type of methodologies that work perfectly theoretically. And the point is that you need to implement something that makes sense for you. I think that the moment that people don't understand what they are doing and why they are doing something is the moment that it doesn't matter the methodology or the technique that you are using, that it's never going to work. And I think that systems should be based in common sense. I mean, you need to run them without looking for SOPs or procedures or working at all inside the same team. people need to understand why they are doing what they are doing and how to do whatever it comes to mind. Because if not, then that's the misalignment between the theory behind something and the reality. Okay. And I think that the moment that something is just memorized, that you don't understand it, and on top of everything, every person in the team understands something differently, is the moment that it's impossible to make things work. Okay. Right now, for instance, Tom and myself have done our quarterly review, okay, where we analyze how things went and we plan the future. And we organized our main goals for the quarter just in 15 minutes. That was it. It was
15, yeah?
crystal
So
clear.
not 50, but 15 minutes.
15.
It's insane.
Yeah. But even if it was 50 or 1 hour, the point is that it's just common sense. People start divagating for hours about what needs to be accomplished, and they lose perspective of reality. Okay, that time literally disappears. Okay, the moment that you are into the reality of your day-to-day work, time is removed completely of the equation, and you need to have crystal clear your main goals that should be just 2, 3, 4, 5, at least not 14, because it's impossible. Okay, the shallow work, the unexpected events, the new opportunities that emerge, everything will attack you without any mercy at all. Okay, mercilessly. And you need to tackle that and have a crystal clear vision. Okay, and that's what we do. We bring clarity to our system, and it's based on our common goals. The moment that we get distracted and we look back towards our main projects for the quarter, everything is realigned immediately. And the moment that you are facing a task, you quickly reply to the question, am I doing what I should be doing? Is this taking me to these projects that we were committed? Okay, because we know that time is what it is. And I think that system should bring reality, the reality of nowadays, to the day-to-day life. That's the most important thing, knowing that you're trusting on a system that is giving you the control. Okay, a system that you make a pause, you make a step back, you analyze, you define the main goals, you create the main structure, the backbone of your quarter, and based on that, you start creating and aligning each daily task within those goals. And I think that the moment that you bet in that type of approach, that it makes sense for you, that you understand, that you perfectly know each week what needs to be done, and exactly the same when you are facing each day, is the moment that a system really works. But the moment that you start trying to copy and paste methodology that are so huge that they can be used to launch a rocket to Mars or to manage an entrepreneur that is delivering, I don't know, blog posts, doesn't make any sense. At the end, we need to force the thing to understand the system that we are implementing, because that's the only way that you can have control over your system. And the moment that you're going to feel safe and sound by trusting on your system, because at the end, the moment that a system is correctly implemented, you just let it go, you run your system, and you forget about everything. Okay, you just create this point of thinking, if it's a team, in common, okay, to define, to everyone give their opinion. And then once that there's an agreement about the main things, and we are conscious that that's doable, okay, because we cannot believe in miracles and things that cannot be done, okay?
Yeah, and David confirms this in the chat, saying, Paco, this is one of the best narratives I have heard on getting in the right state of mind and getting to work. And that's it. As you said it, Paco, back to the story that I initially explained, this was the issue, that people were already struggling as things weren't defined properly. Now somebody decides on top level, who is not even involved on all the operations work and the project work, that a new methodology that works for a complete different company on a complete different industry is now a company goal to implement this new methodology inside this company. The people are forced to implement something they don't understand, and they never understood it even 2 years later. And they were forced to work this way. And this is where frustration comes up. Do you have to use buzzwords? People make jokes about this. And this is exactly where the spiral goes downwards then with all this. And people will just do it because they are forced to do it. While even the person who forces you to do it not even gets the point why we are actually doing this. And I mentioned my company, but it is common. And that's so crazy with the hundreds and thousands of clients that we worked with already and members that we had and the YouTube comments that I see. This is a common issue This is the lack of understanding of why you're doing what you're doing every day. And then the blame game, the finger pointing, all this appears out of this. And by giving a clear understanding and definition of the things that everybody's working on based on common sense, this is where everything runs smoothly. As Paco said, no need for complex SOPs because everything is falling into place naturally. And that's what we help with the ICOR methodology to establish there. All right, so let's move on to the final question. How can poor note-taking affect your productivity?
Totally, because note-taking is the first step into any productivity system, is the input stage in ICOR. And also, note-taking, at least for me as a writer, okay, helps me to think about the things. So if I have a poor note-taking process, I'm not thinking correctly. Based on that, if the input is not good, you cannot aspire or think that your output will be amazing. That usually tends not to happen in life. Okay, you need amazing input and maybe the output is good enough. Okay, so imagine the moment that you start creating inputs that are not properly distilled, thought, again, that makes sense for you. People are obsessed about quantity. Okay, they want to capture everything. Not an idea can be lost. Everything needs to be written down, and at the end they end up with a note-taking process or system that creates a PKing, a personal knowledge management, that doesn't make sense at all. Okay, it's a PKing system that is not based in the what we call the key elements in life, is not based on the current projects that you are running, or not even related to the topics that you may be interested in. That's why we created a mental model named the Capturing Bits that helps you to reduce your focus and your attention in the nightmare of today's world. Okay, and I think that the moment that you dedicate time to really create a brilliant process of note-taking, that you perfectly know how to store the things, where to store, how to write things down, how to give a little bit of a structure initially, so the moment that you start retrieving that information, you can easily retrieve and it still makes sense for you. Okay, because that's one of the things that we say. We start writing things down without thinking about if that will make sense at any moment in the future that I could look at it. So if you start creating a little bit of context that is giving additional information to that piece of information that you took the time to write it down, then try to make the best, because we always say the same, that everything starts with a simple idea. Okay, maybe just a sentence, a quote, a thought, whatever. Any project starts with that, and that's why we need to emphasize that and reduce the amount and improve the quality. Okay, the quality of how you structure the information, how you take the time to really distill and write the things down that really make sense, again, that are important for you, and why you wrote it down. And I think that that's one of the most important things in a productivity system, because it's the starting point of everything.
Yeah, and it's interesting to look at this from a developer's perspective, as they have the saying shit in, shit out. And there, when you go into coding, then you see the same parallels there to normal business note-taking that you do there. When they write codes, it starts working, right? And then they build up on this code and more, and then you end up with this so-called spaghetti code that was leading you to the goal, right? You build something that works somehow, that is all based on one thought process. But once you want to get back to this code and try to optimize this a month later, you have no clue where to start, where to find information, and then everything is a mess. So especially when another person comes in and wants to work with you together on this code, then they have no clue, because there was no notes on what this code snippet does or things like that. And that's the same here as well in a professional's life. When we take notes that we don't understand later on what we meant by this, because context is missing, then what was the purpose of taking these notes down? If I just save a link to a video or an article without giving it context, there's no point in saving it at all. Just Google it later again. That's where you mentioned the capturing beast, where we give this purpose to anything that we save, related to anything, to something that's going on in our lives. Like the capturing beast has the 3 buckets, the capturing my current projects related, the key elements, these are things related to my life and I cannot live without. So I don't go into much detail. And then the topics where we just collect all the things that we are interested in, but we have this context of the topic at least that we're saving. So if I save a video, I watch something about productivity, it might be my topic, I'm interested in productivity, and I at least have this context here. So this starts here in the personal knowledge management, where I need to give context in order to realize later on. And it also, for example, applies to meeting notes. At least give it a date, give who was attending, and the key points that were discussed there. So you can find it later on, at least by the date or by the attendees, right? That's the context again that you can give there. But without context, it will be hard to find the notes that you have taken about this meeting. And then this is your personal knowledge management world. Then we move on to the BKM, the business knowledge management, as we separate this in ICOR, where we share the information with the team. So again, it's another step of this initial notes that you have taken. If you don't already understand what you actually have noted down, how are you supposed to properly now move this on to your team members? And that reminds me of the meetings that I had in big corporate, where they had so much money, it seems that they had one person just taking notes, not having the expertise what was talked about, anything like that. So what you got as meeting minutes was just not enough that summarized properly the meeting, what needs to be done and who needs to do what and what's the context about all this. But if this would have built up that everybody takes their own notes in a proper system and provides these conclusions then in the BKM on the task that everybody is working on, then you have a task as your single source of truth with all the relevant information necessary in order to accomplish this task. And I think that's important as well, to think long term about whenever you take your notes, what's the purpose of this note that I take there?
Yeah, and also I think that it's important, again, to make sense of your knowledge. I mean, you need to be able to navigate through your knowledge the exact same way you are navigating in your physical brain. That's why we say that there's just one brain, because at the end, it doesn't matter if I'm going through my tools or through my brain, I perfectly understand everything. I don't need to memorize anything. That's why I try to make sense of all the things. Maybe if you prepare a small and quick diagram, okay, using visual thinking that helps you, the moment that you go back to that content quickly, you know what's going on. If you create a quickly outline to create a certain structure, a hierarchy of knowledge that helps you to better understand that, those are the tiny things that when compounding creates something that you don't understand at all, or the opposite, something that you can perfectly navigate. You know why it was worth it at that moment. You know all the different and quick relationships that you had at that moment. And that's how you can enhance your note-taking process and consequently your PKM, because I think that we should always dedicate time to think, okay? Where we are missing and lacking is time to think. The moment that we dedicate a little bit to think about the things we write, the tasks we create, the projects we are focused on, our purpose in work, in life, whatever, is the moment that everything starts to make sense. And that's how we give sense to our daily efforts, okay? Every task that we do on a daily basis is perfectly justified. And based on that is how we can bet on positive emotions like being motivated, fulfillment, achievement, accomplishment, all those things that we want to achieve in life and in work is based on creating that system that protects us and give us that sensation, because it's not a sensation, it's a reality of control, that no matter what we ask to the system, we're going to receive the right information at any moment. And fortunately, thanks to mobile devices and all the beautiful things we have out there nowadays, at any moment, just by looking at any device. And I think that that's beautiful. And it shows that you have a really amazing productivity system behind, because it takes care of you and not the other way around.
Exactly, Paco. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will catch you up next week with other questions related to the productivity system. So please feel free to go to the weekly live Q&A section inside the membership and hand in your questions if you have any, and we will catch you up next week then. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Thank you.